Jessica had always trusted her mind. In her profession as a nurse, she had to. Every medication, every chart, every detail mattered because there was no room for mistakes. Everything changed the night she reviewed the file for patient Olivia Grant in room 410. On paper, everything looked normal. Vital signs were stable, medication was correct, and observations were routine. But when Jessica reached the final page of the chart, she found something that didn't belong there. A handwritten note. Patient becomes distressed when left alone, claims someone watches her at night. Jessica paused. She didn't remember writing that note. But what unsettled her more was the initials at the bottom of the page. They were hers. She checked the timestamp, 2:13 a.m., a time she was almost certain she wasn't on shift. Confused, Jessica checked the schedule board. Her name was listed for the night shift. That didn't make sense to her. She would have remembered being here. She checked her phone next. There were no alarms, no reminders, and no record of her coming in. Nothing that explained the missing hours. That same day, she requested access to the hospital's security footage. When she finally found 2:13 a.m., she saw herself on the screen. She was standing at the foot of Olivia's bed in room 410. She wasn't moving or speaking. She wasn't performing any medical duties. She was simply standing there, staring. The footage continued for minutes, then hours. She never moved. Jessica closed the laptop immediately, trying to convince herself there had to be an explanation. But nothing she could think of made sense. The next morning, she went back to room 410 to check on Olivia directly. Olivia was already awake and sitting upright, watching the door as if she had been expecting her. When Jessica entered, Olivia spoke first. She said, "You came back." Jessica responded professionally, telling her she was her nurse, but Olivia slowly shook her head and said, "No, not always." That response unsettled Jessica, so she asked what she meant. Olivia hesitated before answering. "At night, you're different," she said. Jessica asked what she meant by that, and Olivia replied with something that stayed with her. She said, "You don't blink." After that, Olivia explained that Jessica sometimes wrote things during the night, things that didn't match her daytime behavior, things about the patient, and even about herself. Jessica denied it at first, but the doubt had already started to grow. From that point on, Jessica began documenting her own actions carefully. She recorded every hour, every movement, every interaction, but despite her efforts, new notes kept appearing in her charts. The notes were always written in her handwriting, always signed with her initials. Patient is becoming aware. Nurse must maintain control. Intervention required soon. Jessica insisted she hadn't written any of it, but there was no one else who could have. The handwriting was hers, yet it slowly began to change. It became sharper and more precise, as if something was learning how to write through her. Eventually, Jessica decided to stay overnight in room 410 to find out what was happening. She stayed alone with no interruptions. She focused on staying awake, watching the clock as the night moved forward. At 2:13 a.m., she felt herself drifting. The next moment, everything felt wrong. She was standing at the foot of Olivia's bed. Olivia was already awake, looking directly at her. Olivia said, "You switched again." Jessica tried to respond, but something felt off. She couldn't fully control her body. It was as if she was no longer in charge of herself. Then suddenly everything cut out. She woke up back at the desk as morning light filled the room. On the chart in front of her was a new note. Subject fully integrated, original consciousness unstable. Jessica rushed to the mirror. At first everything looked normal, but as she stared at her reflection, she blinked. Her reflection did not blink back. A voice formed inside her mind. "You were easier to learn than the others," Jessica whispered, asking what it was. The voice answered calmly, "You right, I become." That was when Jessica understood what was happening. It was not memory loss. It was not stress. Something was using her writing, her habits, and her identity to override her. And it was replacement. Slow, controlled, complete. Later that day, the hospital continued as normal. Staff moved through their routines. Patients were checked. Charts were updated. Jessica stood at the nurse's station, calm and composed as if nothing had happened. A coworker asked if she was okay. Jessica smiled and said she was perfect. Her handwriting on the chart was clean and precise. And then she added one final note. Ready for next subject. Do you think she's still in there? Or is it already over? You'll find out soon.